This episode's brought to you by Ion Layer at ionlayer.com. Go and check out the health benefits, the wellness benefits, and longevity benefits of NAD treatments. NAD is nicknamed the fountain of youth for a reason. You have an abundance of this in your system when you're young. As you get older, it drops off, and now we've found a way to get NAD into our systems. They do it through IV treatments, but they're very expensive, and it's also extremely painful and difficult. However, Ion Layer found a way to get a high dose of NAD into your system through a medical patch you wear on your arm. You wear it for about 14 hours, you get a high dose of NAD treatment into your system, and no pain at all. And it is a fraction of the cost of what you would pay for an IV treatment. In the coupon code, type in Apologia in all caps. They're going to hook you up with a great discount for an already amazingly cost-effective product. And they bless Apologia Studios and help us to stay on the air and do all these programs with you. Don't forget also, Ion Layer has added a glutathione patch as well. Glutathione, the master antioxidant. Go check out the health benefits of glutathione. I'm doing this stuff anyways. It's blessed my life in tremendous ways. And so if you want to focus on your health, wellness, and longevity, nothing better in my mind than ionlayer.com for your NAD and glutathione treatments. ionlayer.com. Don't forget to put Apologia in all caps in the coupon.
Non-rockabotus must stop. I don't want to rock the boat. I want to sink it.
Are you gonna bark all day, little doggy, or are you gonna bite?
Brett,
delusional. I love you, Jet.
Delusional, yeah. Delusional is okay in your worldview. I'm an animal. You don't chastise chickens for being delusional. You don't chastise pigs for being delusional. So you calling me delusional using your worldview is perfectly okay. It doesn't really hurt. She hung up on me.
What?
Desperate times call for faithful men and not for careful men. The careful men come later and write the biographies of the faithful men, lauding them for their courage.
Go into all the world and make disciples. Not go into the world and make buddies. Not to make brosives.
Right.
Don't go into the world and make homies.
Right.
Disciples.
I got a bit of a jiggle neck. That's a joke, Pastor.
When we have the real message of truth, we cannot let somebody say they're speaking truth when they're not.
Take an amazing journey to a place that will blow your mind and move your heart so you will never be the same again.
If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. And if you say, behold, we did not know this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And will he not repay man according to his work? What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Apologia Radio. Luke the Bear hosting today. That, of course, was Proverbs 24, 10 through 12, some of my favorite verses. And we say it a lot, but it applies today to today's show. So, Pastor Jeff just got back from Ohio. We'll talk about that in a minute. For our bill there, we had a rally yesterday. First, I will introduce Little Zeezers.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Welcome back to another episode.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's great to be here again.
And one of my most favorite people in the world.
It's true.
Is in studio with us today, my good friend Scott Hord.
Great to be here.
That's the most quiet you've ever been.
Scotty Don't.
Great to be here.
Scotty Don't. We got stories about Scotty Don't. So Scott was
from
in
Nashville.
That's right.
Smyrna, actually, right?
Smyrna. That's right, just south of Nashville.
Yep.
It's 100% humidity there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you don't breathe.
100%. No, thank you.
Yeah.
What's the actual temp?
That's probably mid-90s right now. But when you walk out, you literally feel like you've walked into something. Like it covers you.
Sure, I understand that.
Yeah, you get what's cool though is you get this sheen, you get this glisten to your skin.
Yeah, your skin's probably great.
Yeah, it looks good. You shine a little bit.
We have a similar effect, but it's like the opposite. It's like you walking into hell.
Yeah, that's it. The way I describe it, it's just like oven heat.
Yeah,
it's just dry,
blow dry.
I got my car today. Put the hand on the steering wheel, and you forget, and it's like you stuck it in an oven, or you put it on a hot stovetop. You're just
Yeah, you have to let. It's like
if you know, you know.
It's like if you live in the winter, you got to start your car a little bit earlier to warm it up or defrost. Here in the summer, you got to start your car early to cool it off, so you don't like get 3rd-degree burns.
Yeah. But the I think it's 114 degrees here today.
Yeah.
It punishes you.
And
like you can't.
Yes, it does.
You can't survive in it. In Tennessee, it's 95, 100% humidity. You can function. You're just miserable, but it doesn't like
you just
kill
sweat
you.
it out.
Yeah.
But here, you're just
I'd rather have this
pant
man.
like a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in humidity, and I go back now, and I'm like, I don't want anybody to touch me.
No, that's it.
I don't want to be wearing clothes.
No.
I just want to like
you
stand
take
in front
like
of a
5
fan.
showers a
just
day.
like
It's honestly hard, which I would rather have. Like both of them are pretty bad.
Yeah. The good thing about this weather, though, if you have like some kind of cough, you come out in this dry air. It's great for your lungs, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
I was at the Creation Museum in Ark last summer in July, and it was rough, humidity and stuff. And we had my nephew and a few of my nieces with us and my mom, and my nephew's a big kid. He's how old is he? 13. And I think he's like 5'9", 5'10", like 250 pounds. Like he's a big boy. But he's just like this, this big, snuggle, cuddly bear, right? And so we're like walking through the Ark, and he just wanted to like be touching me the whole time. He's like putting his head on me. I mean, I love that kid. I talk to him all the time, but he's wanting to hold my hand. Like he's just like attached to me. And I finally go, bro. I was like, dude, I love you so much, but you got to stop touching me.
Right.
I was like, I can't handle it. It's like,
it's
making me miserable.
You stick to each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyways, it's quite the introduction. So we got Scott's in town this week, and I was like, hey, come on the show, and we always have a good time. And he's always got some of the best stories you've ever heard in your life when it comes to saving babies and preaching the gospel. So we're just gonna have him tell some stories. But first, I got stories of my own to introduce Scott.
Uh-oh.
So I got 2 stories I like to tell.
Just 2?
Well, there's some I can't tell, but there's 2 that I like to. There's more than 2, but there's 2 that are my favorite. The first one is when we went to Australia. So let me back up, because we had just met shortly before that, right? Because you'd come out here to the conference.
Yeah, well,
EAN conference?
I'd been listening to you guys for a couple of years, and I had a rescue. The boy's name was actually Austin J, and I had posted a picture online of me holding Austin J. And you called me one day out of the blue and said, hey, we're having a conference. Can we use that picture for the poster or something?
Okay, I don't even remember.
And then, and that's how I ended up coming out.
Oh, okay.
So I came out and met you guys, had a great time. And then another time, I think I was just hiking in the area.
Okay.
And I ended up at the church, and then I came to ReformCon.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we had a trip to go to Australia. We were in Brisbane, Sydney, and then to Christchurch, New Zealand. And Scott calls me, and he's like, "Hey," or maybe he texts me. We're like, "Hey, I want to go to Australia with you." Like, I hardly knew you. You know, we just kind of knew each other. And I was like,
I think I said I'll carry your luggage or something. Carry the luggage.
I was like, okay. I was like, we already had everything booked. I was like, all right, well, here's our flights if you want to go. Like, and you're like, done. I was like, all right. I was like, meet us at Sky Harbor or whatever. So we get to Sky Harbor. It's like, you remember, it's like early. It was like 8 a.m. or something.
Yeah, it was early in the morning.
And Scott had texted me, and he was already there, and you'd been there a while, I think, because your flight had come in. And so we get there, and I can't find Scott anywhere. And I'm like, where is this guy? Like, and then I finally find you, and you're like, oh, sorry, I was sharing the gospel with this lady. And I'm like, who does that? So, we get like 3 flights later, I think, or maybe 2. I don't know. It was 2 to the coast, and then I think 12 to Brisbane. So we get to Brisbane, and we're zombies. Who knows what day and time it is?
Yeah.
This guy's sleeping on the balcony where there's man-sized bats attacking us, like literally.
Yeah, that was wild.
Like, ginormous coming, and he's out sleeping on the balcony. I was like, all right, bro, whatever.
I remember the dinner that night. Everyone was just loopy.
Yeah,
it was all get out.
So we're like, everybody's sleeping. Just get up when you get up. We'll figure out what's going on. So we all wake up at some time the next day, and we're all kind of just trying to figure out what's going on. And after probably like 15 or 20 minutes, we're like, where's Scott at? Nobody knows where Scott's at. And
he didn't say nothing.
We barely know the guy. You know, we're like in Brisbane, Australia. He's gone. No one can get a hold of him. We're like, I don't know. I have no idea. We're like, hopefully he's okay. And like about an hour or so later, he just comes waltzing in. We're like, dude, where have you been? He's like, well, I went and found a gym, worked out, got a smoothie, and I'm sharing the gospel with somebody. Just we're like, who has that much energy? I don't know any person in the world that has that.
Scott's like the
that
Energizer Bunny, man.
And so that was like the whole trip, just Scott everywhere sharing the gospel. And I'm like, you know, I get on the plane, I'm like, I lock in, I'm like in the zone, I'm like, don't touch me, don't talk to me.
Right.
You know, not Scott. He's got friends all around him. By the time he lands, they're all converted to Christianity.
I think on that flight, one guy, he was like a high rep at Chick-fil-A or something, and he gave you a card, and he was like, here, it's free chicken.
Good recall. Yeah. I got free sandwiches for like a year or something.
A year. A year.
Just because I was talking to him. Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's my life. That's what I do, man.
So, yeah, so that was a blast. That trip was so much fun. And it was just like, this guy is hilarious, man. So that's my first story. My second story, and you probably, I don't know, maybe you remember this, was when I was in Nashville for Fight Laugh Feast.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I'm going with this? And he calls me. It was like in this like indoor soccer gym or whatever. He calls me. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just here, whatever. And he's like, come outside. I was like, what? He's like, just come outside. I was like, all right, fine. Weirdo. So I come outside, and he's like sitting in this blue convertible Camaro, and it was for your homecoming.
That's right. He was the homecoming king.
Yeah,
my son was.
And so they had let them borrow his car over, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, just get in. And I was like, what? He's like, just get in the car. I was like, all right. I get in the car.
Stop asking.
Dude just peels out, man. And he's flying all these hills, and I'm like, the top's down, and I'm like, my wife was with me. I didn't even tell her I'd left. I can't get my phone to even call her because he's flying, the top's down, you know. And I'm like, dude, what? You're crazy. And he's like, peels back in, and I'm like, get out. My wife never even knew I left. I don't know. It was probably like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah.
He did that in Australia too. Remember, he jumped in John Saade's Mustang or whatever it was.
Loaded.
It was on the other side of the road too.
That?
Like,
yeah, we got in that thing, and he's like, you want to drive my Mustang? I was like, yeah, you know I want to drive your Mustang. I get in there, it's on the other side, and we pulled up to a stop sign. He goes, you ready? And he pushed the sport mode, and the car like transformed into this amazing.
The Transformer?
He goes, you ready to get on it? I was like, let's get on it. And we got on it.
That's funny.
It was great.
I can't remember, was Australia on the other side of the road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. New Zealand was too.
That's right.
Very complicated.
Yeah, I did that in Ireland. I'll never do that again. I got serious.
Yeah, you had like a traumatic experience.
I got serious PTSD from driving in Ireland. I don't have time to tell those stories. Anyways, that's my introduction to Scott, and
good times.
We've been good friends.
We
ever
lived through
since
it.
Yeah. So that's Scott. Just always got some story and lots of energy.
But why we have him on the show, especially today, is Scott's a warrior for the preborn.
Yes.
He travels around training churches to rescue babies at the abortion centers, and man, he's just been an inspiration and really taking the banner, holding it up for life, and just doing big things. And he's not stopping anytime soon. It doesn't seem like so.
No, it's been an amazing journey. I the original call for me was I thought it was quite simple. Just go to the street and rescue. And then after 10, 20, 100, 200, 300, I'm up in the 700s now, getting ready to hit 800. People began to find out about it and like, hey, can you come and show us what you're doing? And so now, like, I just got a call from Richmond. I'm getting quite a few calls from New Mexico. So I think I'm going to end up there. But it's happening everywhere. That's why I'm here. Stood with James today on the street, and just, they're doing a great job. His ministry, Proverbs 20:24, you just read it. They're doing a great job here locally. So it's awesome to stand with them and see what they're doing. And if I can add something to it, then I'll do it. Yeah. Yeah,
man, you're a hero, dude. And even like here, we have a really, very difficult, the one in Tempe is very difficult to like get saves at because of the distance. And so this was probably 2 years ago. We were like, let's bring Scott out just to like evaluate, and because like every time I open Facebook, he's like, I got another save, which is awesome. It's like, praise the Lord, so let's just bring him out to evaluate, and do some training with us and stuff. And the first day he's out there, we get like 4. There was like 4 saves, I think.
Yeah.
It was like this guy's like a magnet to saving babies. So
yeah, it was an amazing day. I remember because that location was so challenging, and it was also the COVID stuff was still happening, and but you had to really speak to reach the people, but we were able to stop cars and have some great conversations. One conversation that happened that day that was real interesting was as we were standing there, I trained people on how to see not just the abortion environment, but really see what's happening all around you. And there was a lady 4 lanes over coming out of a subdivision, but she never pulled out of the subdivision. So I noticed that she was just sitting there. And so I crossed the 4 lanes after a while.
That's like Frogger.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it's a real
life
right?
Frogger.
But I go and I knock on her window. She rolls her window down. We enter into this conversation, and man, she gets real emotional, starts crying. And I'm like, what's going on? Well, she was wanting to, she was trying to get pregnant. Her husband was on the Olympic swim team, and they were trying to force him to take the shot. He didn't want to take the vaccine. And they were trying to force him. They were going to try to keep him out of the Olympics. And so we prayed, and I encouraged her not to do it, to encourage him not to do it. And then months later at the Olympics, it was in China, he was on TV. They made a big deal about it because he was the only one on the swim team that wasn't vaxxed.
Wow.
And it came full circle.
Dude,
Isn't that crazy? Did you know that?
I didn't know.
Yeah, it all came from that day.
That's amazing.
And 3 rescues. So it was 3 rescues that day.
Yeah. Crazy. That's awesome. I did not know that. So before we get into stories, I want to mention, I want to get ahead of myself here. I'm going to play this video real quick. Let me pull this up. So Jeff, like I said, was, where did I put that? Sorry, hold on. I had it pulled up. Maybe I lost it.
The one of the rally at the Capitol.
Sorry. I lost it. Let me pull it up again. Jeff was like I said, in Columbus yesterday for a rally. I'm just doing a really
so basically,
poor job here.
Ohio,
yes,
they've been working, tirelessly to get this bill in. There's good brothers out there that have been trying for a while. The numerous representatives and those that had committed to support it ended up backing out, and so they've just kept plowing away, and finally they got their abolition bill in and had a rally at the Capitol, and it was crashed by a couple pro-aborts, it looks like.
Which is amazing that of all, you said finally, or about time, it was like of all the rallies and bills that we've done over the last 8 years or whatever, this has never happened before.
Yeah.
It's usually the pro-life movement that's trying to ruin our party, so.
Yeah, as far as the legislature goes, but this is, I think you're right, I think this is probably the first one where there were actual
who's speaking
several bodies.
I'm not sure.
I think I cannot remember his name, but I've met him before. There's Austin, that's part of End Abortion Ohio out there, and a couple of other brothers.
Here, Gabe's that pulled up. I'll go ahead and play that here. Volume's not great.
Were they sitting in the crowd?
I think they came in through the door. Was this in the Capitol?
I believe so.
I guess they don't take security very seriously.
Who is that approaching?
I have
no idea.
This is literally the first time I've seen the video. I was so busy yesterday, I didn't get a chance to watch it. Oh yeah, that's Austin. I can see the sign. I don't know why the audio stinks. That dude looks like one of the Hodge twins. I don't know who it is, but
big boy.
I wish I could hear what they're saying.
Yeah, I know.
I wish it was captioned somehow.
They're saying, get off my back?
Something.
That doesn't make sense.
Does it get much different than this? Okay.
I think that's sufficient.
Okay.
I will say they do get creative with their chants that they do. And Scott, I was going to ask you about this too. Like as I'm watching this, I know that.
No, Gabe.
I mean, we've said forever, like this ministry is. I don't think people fully appreciate the spiritual warfare that goes on in it, and the conflict, like the nature of the conflict, is so much more than just flesh and blood, right? We don't war against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, spiritual forces of darkness in the heavenly places. Like even though there's people in front of us, what we can see, they are animated by power from below.
Right.
And when I watch something like that, and I think about even the situation that was going on in Georgia with that young lady that was in the hospital, and she was essentially comatose, but she was pregnant, and they were keeping the baby alive, and now the baby's born here, the baby boy, he's alive. And there are pro-aborts online even making comments like, you know,
have the
we can read it. I mean, it's absolutely horrific, but
Gabe said that the one got taken off of X.
Okay. So,
it was so
I
bad.
think I shared one here, but there's a screenshot of it. One of them, this is what it says. I might be a monster for saying this, but I don't want that child to live. Because if it grows to live and have a decent life, then we as women are doomed to never escape the role of an incubator. Adriana Smith, that was the young lady that was comatose, was an experiment of a country that hates its women. So when I read something like that, like it's difficult.
Yes, you are a monster, by the way.
It's difficult to fathom a level of evil like that's going on in the human heart. And we can all admit readily that if not for Christ, we would be in the same situation. Like without God's restraining hand of grace and mercy in our lives, we would be just like that. But we can look at that and we can see something going on like that on the screen where people are engaging in worship. Like this is a religious sacrament. And for so long, that's what, you know, the conservatism, the Republican Party, the modern standard fare pro-life movement has kind of, they haven't engaged on that front. That this is a spiritual battle, that it needs the Word of God, Christ, the power of the Spirit to actually collide with these things, because we're talking about worship here. We're talking about a spiritual service that's being offered to a false god, and it's a blood sacrament. It's a religious blood sacrament that will never be satisfied, because unless you have the blood of Christ, there is no end of atonement.
Right.
There is no end of sacrifice. There is no end of making satisfaction for sin and satiating that wrath. And so over the course of the time that you've been doing this, maybe help people understand just how much are we talking in terms of spiritual warfare? Like,
well, you know, part of, you know, I do these trainings all over the country, and I've talked to you guys about this, the 4 faces of a pro-life advocate, whatever you want to call it. King face, warrior face, servant face, friend face. And the warrior face is a big one, and it's an understanding of what is the battle really about. We're not going to hand coats out or give food away, even though we might do that. We're entering into a whole nother realm. And so every day, even this morning on my way to stand with James, I'm preparing my mind not only to stand on the street, but to know what it is we're going to encounter, and that you're not just dealing with flesh and blood, but you're entering into a very, very dark place, and it can manifest itself in different ways. And I've seen it manifest itself, and you're like, "Ooh, this is really evil." And I don't know if I've ever told you about Blackie. On Hell's Hill, there was a young lady that was in an apartment on Hell's Hill, and somebody giving me word that she didn't have any furniture, she didn't have a pillow, she didn't have a blanket or anything. And so somebody gave me her apartment number. Well, the next day, I had a buddy coming down to stand with me, big boy, strong guy.
Where's Hell's Hill? Is that Tennessee?
It's in Nashville. That's where I first started rescuing.
Is that where the place you usually go in Tennessee?
Yeah. Well, it's closed down, and now I'm at Planned Parenthood.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So my buddy Jay is coming the next day, and he calls me on the way in. And he says, "Hey, can I bring something?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need you to go to Walmart and get a pillow and a blanket." And so he picks up a pillow and a blanket, and he comes in, and he goes, "What are we doing?" I said, "We're going to go meet somebody named Blackie." And so we go knock on this door, and all of a sudden I hear, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And I told her, I said, "Hey, I'm Pastor Scott. I have a pillow and a blanket I'd like to give you." And she goes, "How'd you find out about me?" She's screaming at me in this real intense voice, and it's not going anywhere. And so I just told her back, I said, "Hey, I'm going to leave the pillow and the blanket here." And we walked away. And so we're up at the abortion mill at the top of the hill and engaging people, and I look over, and all of a sudden there's this girl coming down the road. She's got a black dress on and black boots, and she's got a dog collar and a chain hanging from the dog collar, and it's dragging the ground, and her head's down, and she's walking towards us. And I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be real interesting. And it's Jay's first time, and to be at the abortion mill, and he's already intense, a little bit nervous. And he goes, "What's going on?" I said, "I think this is Blackie." And so she walks up, and she's like, "Who are you?" In this weird voice. And I said, "I'm Pastor Scott." And she goes, "How'd you find me?" And I said, "Somebody told me where you lived, and they said you needed some stuff. I just wanted to bless you." And so Jay said, "Man, I'd like to pray with you." And so he holds out his hand, and she grabs his hand, and she starts growling, and she's like growling and making these weird noises, and it's real intense. And I'm kind of watching it from afar in a way, and I'm like, all right, because you got to keep your eyes open. I train people, when you pray, don't close your eyes on the street, because you don't know what's going to come at you. And right at that moment, a car pulled up, old beater of a car, and there's this old woman in there with these colored glasses, and she's got all these colored necklaces, and she slams on her brakes, she rolls down the window, and she points at us and goes, "The devil! The devil!" And I'm like, whoa.
Pointing to Blackie?
She's pointing towards us.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think she's pointing at Blackie, and she goes, "The devil! The devil!" And Blackie goes down on her knees and starts screaming, "Don't stop! Don't stop!" And Jay's trying to pull his hand back, and she's holding his hand. And so the car pulls away, and when she pulls away, Blackie gets up and walks away and disappears. Now, what's interesting about that story is months later, my family, my son Jordan and Gracie, my wife, were serving at a ministry where we're serving homeless people food underneath a bridge in Nashville. And it's a pretty big mission where they have outside groups come in. And so all of a sudden I look over and I see this woman sitting in a yellow dress, and she looks nice, and she's got all these middle school girls in a circle around her. And I walk up to see what's going on. It's Blackie.
Wow.
She was restored.
Wow.
And I told my family, I was like, "Hey, that's Blackie."
That's crazy.
Completely. So to say all that is, that's a manifestation of what we see. We don't see that every day, but that's the realm that you're in when you're on the street. You can't be out there. You don't approach the street, get out of your car, and just walk up and go, "Oh, it's another day at the mill. I'm going to rescue babies." You're ready for any moment, any given situation where something like that is going to manifest itself. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it's through somebody's words, or them trying to run over you or pull a gun on you, whatever. But it's always there, and it's not a battle of flesh and blood. It is in the spiritual realm, and that helps you respond. Because if you have 10 guys, and I've been there where I've had 10 fathers battling against me, and it's just me, and I remember in that moment looking at my car going, "Lord, can I just leave?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can go, but I've called you to be here." And he's like, "Understand the battle. It's not you against them. It's you against the realm." And so, you guys have done such a good job of proclaiming the kingdom of God and teaching the kingdom of God. And it helped me when I came to understand Luke 4, Isaiah 61, and how those things come together. Not only did it propel me to the street, but it sustains me in those moments.
Yeah, the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach good news.
Yes, yeah. So I'm not there on my own.
Right.
I'm there in His strength, and He's with me to rebuild the devastated walls, the ruined cities. Yeah. And so
it's amazing.
That's what gives me energy.
And that, I mean, you have some incredible stories of like the fact that you just randomly ran into Blackie again. Like that's a gift from the Lord, right? To see the fruit of, because you most of the time you're out there sharing the gospel or preaching whatever, like you never know what happens.
Never. Right.
But like you've got some crazy stories of like
full circle moments.
Yeah, full circle where you're seeing that fruit. And that's just a gift from God to be like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. I got this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have. There's unbelievable. There's one that God just recently happened. It's not coming to mind, but I do. I have crazy moments where I re-encounter people, and the Lord brings things together that are just absolutely amazing. And so being on the street has actually taught me to believe again in the miraculousness of God and how amazing He truly is. It's caused me to actually believe in miracles because I've encountered miracles. When you see a miracle, you're like, okay, that's a miracle. That's what's transpired. And so I'm like,
in the truest sense, God intervenes without you being able to fully explain what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of the greatest moments. There's a guy going into a board with his girlfriend, and he was forcing her to abort, and she ended up sneaking out and talking to me. And he told me, he said, "Man, don't talk to my girlfriend. I'll hurt you." And she came out, so I'm gonna talk to her, and I did, and talked her out of the abortion. She went back in and told him, and so he left in a rage. She left and went on her way and was happy, but he was in such a rage to a point. From a spiritual perspective, I remember the people next to me, and I looked at them and said, "Don't say anything to him because he's got murder on his heart. Like, we'll die if you say something. We'll possibly die." It's like, don't say anything. Just look at him and pray for him. And so he gets in his car. He's in a rage and crazy stuff's going on. And he pulls out, and he's so confused. He doesn't know where he is. And he rolls down his window, and he screams at me, "How do I get to the effing interstate?" And I was like, down that way, turn right, And so he leaves, pulls out, and it's just a crazy moment. We're celebrating. There's a life saved. That was on Friday. So then there's Saturday and Sunday. I get a call. A guy I hadn't talked to in 10 years calls me. He's like, "Hey, I got a friend. He's struggling. I think you can help him. I think you're the one to help him. Can I give him your number?" And I'm like, "Yeah, give him my number." So Monday I get a call from Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm talking to this guy. It's kind of a weird conversation. I'm trying to fill it out, understand what's going on. And then it all comes together. And I'm like, "Hey, man, you're in Birmingham?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Were you in Nashville Friday?" He goes, "Yeah." And
how close are Birmingham and Nashville?
It's a 3-hour drive. And so I said, "You're in Nashville Friday?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Were you in a abortion facility?" And he goes, "How do you know?" "How do you know?" And I said, "I'm your boy." And he goes, "What?" I said, "You remember the guy that you wanted to kill?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm him." And I said, "Don't hang up." I said, "You called me. I didn't call you. You called me." I said, "How does that happen?" And he said, "God." I said, "Yeah, let me tell you about him."
Yeah.
And so I shared the gospel with him for about 10 minutes. I said, "Man, do you have any questions?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Thank you." He goes, "I'll never talk to you again, but thank you." and he hung up the phone. But man, when we hung up the phone, I was like, that's a miracle.
Whether they believe or not, they'll know that a prophet has been among them, right?
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah, in that sense.
You were speaking the word, giving the truth right there. And it's like, what happens to his soul is up to the Lord. Like, it's been given.
Right.
And now his eyes need to be open. He needs to be given a new heart. But the providential timing of that, I mean,
that
just the drive in between.
Me. Yeah, I think that's crazy.
So had they come from Birmingham to have an abortion?
He did. I think she was local.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he came up, and so it's crazy. I had another one where a young lady came in with her mom, and they had rolled the window down. I'm really good at stopping cars and getting people to stop the cars, roll down the windows. I can give them tracts. And, when the window goes down, you have seconds to try to generate a conversation, build trust, and just kind of take it from there. I mean, you got literal seconds to make them comfortable enough to talk to. And so I had to accomplish that. And I was talking to this young girl, I asked her name, and she said her name is a Swahili name that means peace. And I asked her, I said, what is peace? And she goes, I don't know. And so I started explaining biblical peace. It's not just the removal of what needs to be removed, but it's completion, right? It's shalom, it's fullness. And I looked over at the mom, and she's a wreck. And so she's bawling. I'm like, you okay? And she goes, no. I said, what's going on? She goes, 17 years ago, I was right here in this place, and I was going to abort her.
Wow.
And she goes, I encountered an angel. I don't know what she meant by that.
Yeah, that's what she said. Though.
Yeah, she left.
Wow.
17 years later, she's back with her daughter.
Wow.
And she encounters the gospel. And she leaves and has that baby.
She encountered another angel, right? A messenger.
But isn't that
carrying
awesome?
The flame.
I mean, just it's stuff like that that is just amazing. I talked to a lady out of a rescue in Nashville, and she was in a really hard place, needed a job. And she was qualified to be some kind of technician in the hospital, and she wasn't having any luck to get the job. And so she chose life, and she's making good decisions, and she interviews for this job. Her license is almost too far gone since she's practiced in it, but she gets an interview, and the interviewer looks at her and goes, I don't know what it is. You're the most unqualified person that I've interviewed, but the Lord has told me to hire you. So she hires her, and they're walking around the hospital on their first night of training, and they're getting to know each other, and they're talking about God, and the lady goes, I've encountered God again. I've come back to the Lord because my daughter was going to abort her child, and we met a guy down on the street down here that talked us out of it, and has brought us back to the Lord. And the lady that hired her looked at her and says, hey, is his name Scott? And she's like, yeah. She goes, that's my pastor. Works in my church.
Wow.
And so think about that. Wow. I mean, those encounters.
Those connections, man.
Yeah.
Only God can make them.
They happen over and over again.
Hey, can I ask you, Scott?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned, when you're on the sidewalk, it's not just another day.
Right.
You mentioned something that made me wonder in terms of mindset, how you approach not only that, but I'm sure other areas of your life. Like, I feel like in our age, like especially for young men, like we have a temptation, like the world is always coming at us, right? The media, the imagery, all those things. And then we're chronically distracted by devices, technology, all that. And we have a hard time sitting still for the wrong reasons.
Right.
We have a hard time focusing, being engaged, being present, husbands, fathers, all the rest. How important is mindset? Having that vigilant disposition.
Yeah.
When, you're obviously walking in the calling that God has for you and active in that mission, and you're focused on doing the will of your Father. How do you impart that to this next generation? Presence of mind, being present, being focused, not being detoured, distracted, or led away by lesser things, but really being engaged, because that's what makes you, I think, the consistency so effectual for the kingdom.
Right. So a couple things I do when I approach the abortion mill. It's the four faces. I go through a list of things. Like tomorrow when I go stand on Kill Day here in Phoenix with James, I go through the king face, warrior face, friend face, servant face, and I'm like, do I represent those? If I don't represent those, I don't go. The first three words the Lord gave me when I went to the street, I didn't know what I was doing. You guys were doing it and had a big inspiration in sending me to go, but he gave me three words: love, humility, truth. Don't compromise any of them. And so tomorrow, before I go to the street, I will do that checklist: love, humility, and truth. Am I loving? Am I humble? Am I honoring truth? Am I bold enough to proclaim it? If I can say yes, I go. If I can't, I don't go. I'll turn around and I'll go get right. And so I also have checks, and I call it checks and balances in my life. I created something called the Cross Challenge. You got a beautiful cross around your neck, Luke. And so the check and balances part of that is, if I see a cross, I ask about it. And so even if I'm going to Home Depot to buy a board, or McDonald's to buy a hamburger,
or a smoothie in Brisbane, Australia.
That's right. If I see you and you have a cross, I'm going to ask about it. And so what it does is I can share the gospel in 20 seconds. I can share it in 20 minutes. But that little thing right there forces me. It's kind of like, all right, Lord, I agreed I would do this. It's amazing how it keeps you focused. And all of a sudden, you're not focused on a board anymore, or a cheeseburger or a smoothie. You're sharing the gospel. And I can't tell you what that thing, like in Gold's Gym, where I work out, a guy had a real nice one. He was doing bench. And he got up, and I said, hey, man, tell me what that means to you. And he couldn't tell me. And so for the next 30 minutes, I'm sharing the gospel. And, man, he emotionally gets, it's an emotional moment. He's like, hey, man, can you leave here and go to my apartment and tell my girlfriend about this? And so we leave the gym, and I end up in this apartment sharing the gospel with his girlfriend. And so last week in D.C., tattoos are huge, and you got some beautiful ink there, Luke.
Thank you.
But last week, a guy had real intriguing tattoos, and so those are things too. There's a story.
Sure, yeah.
All of it now. So I looked at his arm, and he had this picture on his forearm of a very evil woman, and I was like, man, she's evil. And he goes, no, she's a pretty woman that is soulless. And I'm like, that's kind of strange. And I'm like, dude, your arm is real intriguing. It looks like there's hell on the bottom of your arm and there's heaven at the top. And he goes, yeah, you depicted that right. And so I looked at him and said, where do you go? Where will you end up? And he goes, I'm not sure. I said, but I think the Lord wants you to be sure. And so it leads just straight into the gospel of, and now we're talking about the gospel because of tattoo. Gold's Gym, a guy walked in, he had a tattoo on his neck of a skull eating something, and he's just walking by me, and I point at it and go, hey, that's evil. And he goes, no, man, that's not evil. I said, no, that's evil. And so it led into a great, intense conversation about eternity. And so 30 minutes later, man, we're talking about Jesus.
Wow.
And so I use tattoos, crosses, and things like that every day to kind of keep me in check, because I want to drift too. And I kind of just want to meander, and I just want to go eat the cheeseburger. I want to get the board. I want to drink the smoothie. Ignore. This is a good story. I do this too. When I drive down the road, if a car's broken down, I look at the car and go, Lord, show me a sign, and I'll stop. And if that person does something that's interesting, then I'll stop and I help them. So I'm getting on the interstate, exit 70, 24 where I live, and I'm pulling up to a van. Traffic's backed all the way up. Van's broken down. There's an old dude sitting there. He's frustrated. I can tell he's frustrated. He puts his hands on his head. I'm like, Lord, show me something. And he puts his hands on his head. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty dramatic sign. So I stop and I talk to the guy. I'm like, hey, you need help? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I think I'm out of gas. I said, okay. So I had to wait in traffic 2 miles down, bought overpriced gas, drove 2 miles back, got back, put gas in his van. It didn't work. His van didn't start. I was like, and I feel like the Lord's like saying, go the distance with him. So I look at him and I was like, man, what do you need? And he goes, man, will you take me to work? I said, I'll take you to work. So we're driving down the interstate. It's kind of awkward. I've just met him. And he goes, why'd you stop? I said, man, you're going to think I'm a little strange. And he goes, okay. And I said, man, I got this thing that I do with the Lord that as I see a situation, I ask him to show me a sign. And if I see a sign, I stop. And you put your hands on your head in a dramatic fashion. And I took that as a sign. And he looked at me and started crying. And I was like,
starts crying.
Yeah, he starts crying. I said, why?
He's like, let me out of here.
I said, why'd you put your hands on your head? And he said, man, I've been sitting there for over an hour And then traffic was backed up to me and nobody would help me. And I finally said, God, send me somebody.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
And so what's crazy is him and his wife had been out of the church.
Wow.
And he wrote me this amazing letter, him and his wife, and they started going back to church because of that moment.
Man.
Isn't that crazy?
So there's a word I use a lot, and it's just be intentional. Right?
Yes.
And that's you to a T. Like everything you do is intentional. And I know that's challenged me a lot just when I spend time with you, because I'm like, man, I don't care enough for these people.
Right.
And that's the truth. I don't have enough care for people, and you're intentionally looking for someone to care for. And that's inspiring.
At the risk of having some overkill here, because there's a lot of Christianese that we speak, like growing up in the church, and one of those phrases is just that: be intentional with one another, right? Or do life together, right? We have these kind of Christian sayings. So what would you say that means? Like, how would you define it? Would you say it means walking with purpose? What does it mean?
You asking me or him?
Be intentional.
Well, I think purpose is I've used that word in describing being intentional.
Don't meander aimlessly.
Don't be aimless. I use that term a lot, speaking to dads, to be good dads and husbands, and be intentional with your kids and your wife. Like I always say, I think the description I use is don't wander aimlessly like a wino at Walmart.
Yeah.
Like that drives me nuts.
Right.
You go to Walmart or wherever and someone's just meandering. It's like, get out of the way. I got stuff to do.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what, we were talking earlier. You said you like, sorry, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but you're saying how you like to take dudes hiking because they become lifeless. Like they just get locked in, and they may be great providers, but then they just seem to lack purpose. And
right.
So like
they were made for adventure.
They go to work, they do their thing, and then they come home and they're just purposeless.
Yeah, they quit talking. There's no passion. The same passion they have at work is not at home. It's not in their marriage. It's not for their kids. They're tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I try to show guys how to have fun again, to live again. But no, I think there is purpose in it. And there's, when I got into this, the spark that sent me into the street ministry was me being in Louisville with 10,000 pastors at the T4G conference. We got dismissed for lunch. We were going to eat lunch. I was thinking in my mind, wow, there's 10,000 pastors walking through Louisville, revival, right? Like something's going to happen. But we were just going to lunch.
Everybody got fried chicken, right?
Everybody got fried chicken, in Louisville. And so, but there's a lady praying on the side of the street there, and I'm like, why is she praying? And we're going to lunch. And so I actually passed her. I was frustrated enough to go back to her and say, hey, what are you doing here? Why here? And it was a Planned Parenthood. I was like, wow, that's a Planned Parenthood? Oh, wow. And so it hit me. I was like, I was one of the 10,000. 10,000 pastors walked by, and we didn't see it. And it was a moment for me. It's like, I don't want to miss that moment. And so when I'm on the street in D.C., and I'm there to rescue babies. I'm on the street today in Phoenix with James, and there wasn't a whole lot of women coming in, but there were people walking by. And I can tell you, the conversations we had today with Victor, with Sydney, with Iverson, we had 6 conversations of people just walking down the road. And, some of them are like, I'm busy. I'm like, that's all right. I'll walk with you. I ended up walking down the road with them. But I got to know them. And, man, they were sweet people that have never heard the gospel, had no concept of eternity. And
just caring.
Yeah,
like
just caring.
Taking an interest in people.
But what is that moment? But what is that moment? Like, what does it lead to? Like, all of a sudden, maybe their life has changed. And so, one of my favorite stories is Quentin. I was standing on Hell's Hill. Quentin was in a homeless shelter. We call him Q, and he was actually going to check out. This is it. He's done. He's facing big drug charges and homeless shelter. Life is too much. But he gets a call from a temp agency, and they're like, hey, would you pick up trash on this hill today? And so he takes a bus to Hell's Hill. He gets off the bus. He's walking up behind me, and I see him, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to pray with this dude. I'm like, hey, man, what's up? And he's like, nothing, man. I'm like, can I pray with you? He's like, sure, man. So I'm praying, and we look at each other. I mean, he's real emotional. I'm like, you okay? And he's like, I am now. And so he picked up, I remember seeing him on the trash. He had one of them snatch things, and he's picking up the garbage. He's listening to me preach the gospel. I had no idea what that moment. I thought it was just a moment of praying with an African-American dude. That dude's a part of my family now. He was going to check out. He went to NA that night. The NA director looked at him and said, Q, you're different today. What happened? He goes, I met some crazy white dude on the street. Did you know the NA director was in my church, was a member of my church? Oh, my goodness. So Q had to go through a lot, and the Lord told me to journey with him. And, man, I watched him work through his addictions. He drives a truck down in just south of Birmingham now. He's good friends with my son. He mentors my son. Wow. And, man, what did that come from? One moment of just looking at another brother and taking time and saying, hey, man, can I pray with you? And it's like a baby rescue is amazing. And when you see that child come into the world, it's amazing. When you hold the child, Austin J., who that picture, for your first, he's 9 now. He goes to my church. Wow. I mean, those are great moments. Yeah. But when you see Q or these other people and the gospel begins to go to work in their life, and you see that transformation, it's just as good as a baby rescue. And so when I go to the street tomorrow, it's not just, hey, abortion, where's these women coming in? It's like, all right, Lord, what are you bringing me today? Life or death, what are you bringing me? And it's a game changer. It changes the whole ministry, and you experience so many beautiful things. The rescue, but a different rescue.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Man, there's three men I've known that are like that. 2 of them are probably your heroes. Well, Rusty.
Yes, I love Rusty.
And John Barrows, who's now with the Lord.
Love John.
You 3 are all like heroes of me, and like just always exude the gospel. I mean, Rusty actually taught our man camp last year, and it's up in Prescott, and I have him. We're heading back. Have to stop to fill up for gas. I fill up for gas, and I go in to go use the restroom, get some water or something, and he's like, he just starts talking to some lady about the gospel for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, bro, we got to get. And I'm just standing there like doing one of these, and he's like in his zone, like just sharing the gospel. It was cool, I'm like, I don't care enough. That's what it comes back to. I don't care enough. I'm like, I got a deadline, man. Let's go.
Well, I think you get acknowledged too. Like, there's a certain, like, the Lord has gifted you, and people like that in certain ways. Like, they have a gravitational pull about them. Like, people are just for some reason, people just want to tell you their life story.
Yeah.
You know, like, wow, this guy looks really. Let me tell him about my horrible failed relationships, and all, and they just go into it. Like. That happens with my wife sometimes. Like, she goes to the store, and it's like, why does that never happen to me? Like, people just want to tell you their entire life story.
Oh, we were in Nashville. Me and Jordan, my son, were in Nashville last week, and there's a line of cars in traffic. And I pointed at a dude, and I just pointed at him and put my hands. I do this thing where I put my hands together, hit my heart. And I let people know I'm praying for them. Dude's like, hey, man, I want to come over and talk to you. So he gets out of traffic, he pulls into Planned Parenthood, and he gets out, and his name was Brandon. And, man, such an amazing moment, all coming from a simple put your hands together, hit your heart, point at somebody and say, hey, I'm praying for you. But yeah, that it's just that's what part of my training is how do you see on the street? And a lot of people don't see. I have a lot of rescues, and a lot of people have a lot of rescues out there, but a lot of the rescues come from things that most people don't see. It's these little bitty things that you would ignore.
Yeah.
But I see them and I act upon them. Yeah. It might be a lady sitting half mile up the road in her car by herself, and nobody sees it, but I'll see it. Or it'll, it's silly. It seems like silly things, but I see them and I act upon them. And so it's the littlest things that you respond to where you see the most glorious things.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed about your work and watching you. It's usually not even about the person going in. It's about the people around.
It is.
And then that leads to, ironically, something like a baby being saved.
Yeah. Like, so standing on the street in Phoenix today, I stood there and waved at cars for a couple hours when nobody's coming by, wave and smile at people. And it's like, well, why are you doing that? Well, Phoenix is a pretty hard town.
Yeah.
And those people are focused. They're going to work. They're probably experiencing a lot. But
they're dying from the heat.
They're dying from the heat. I'm standing in the middle of it. But, man, if they can encounter my smile and my wave, and if their window's down, I'm going to say something really quick. I call it the 2-second gospel. And I throw it in their window. I think it has an impact. And so 90% of the people didn't wave at me today. In Nashville, 90% of the people wave at me because I've been there for a decade doing it.
Well, and it's Nashville, and people are kind.
It's the
That's
South.
true. Let's do that. But I had a young lady at Fisk University that drove by me for 4 years. And on her fourth year, senior year, she finally stopped, and she parked up the road a little bit, got out of her car, and started yelling at me. And she said, "I want to talk to you." And there was a bunch of us down there. She goes, "I want to talk to you." So I go up to her. I was like, "How can I help you?" She says, "I've been driving by you for 4 years." And she goes, "I go to class every day. You're here every day." She goes, "You wave at me. You smile at me. If my window's down, you're saying stuff to me." And she goes, "I know you're a hateful person. I know you're a hateful person. Why do you stand here every day?"
Did you recognize her?
No.
Okay.
And so I explained what I do. Within 60 seconds, she's broke. She's broke. And her response back was, "I can't believe for 4 years I've harbored this much anger against you. I'm so sorry." And that all comes from waving, pointing at them, praying for people. I've got two or three rescues from this right here.
Wow.
Folding my hands, hitting my heart, pointing at people. And so there's the nonverbal communication.
So simple.
It really is.
You don't even think about that in your own life, just how subtle and powerful a smile can be, or a wave, or just a simple gesture.
Right. So
it's so uncommon.
It's hard. Yeah, right. It is. And so at Phoenix, it's hard. It's not Nashville. But if you stand there for 5 years, 6 or 7 years, I call it the Truman Show effect. And I was explaining it to the guys on the street today. There was Ethan and James. I was like, man, all these cars will probably come by tomorrow. Right. And then they'll come by Monday and Tuesday. There's a Truman Show effect. There's a routine all these people are in. You're in the routine, so you might as well leverage it and start remembering things and faces and cars and bring something loving to them. And it will begin to change. And so standing in Nashville for 10 years and doing what I did, it had an impact on the culture where people in the Truman Show would begin to come back. They would step out of the Truman Show line and come back and say, "Hey, we're nurses up here in this hospital. We've been driving by you for 3 or 4 years, and we talk about you. Everybody on the 4th floor of that hospital is talking about what y'all are doing down here. Keep going." And so we started getting the residual effect of that. And that's what I was telling James and Ethan today. Is like, hey, that's what you're trying to do. You're not just trying to close this place and rescue this baby. You want to change. You want to impact the city, and you can.
You're plowing.
That's right.
Yeah. So we're running down on time here. There's one story, and forgive me because for the life of me I can't remember how the story goes. But there's a story that you tell that I've seen grown men come to tears every time you tell it. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Shoot. Remember we were in, was it Nashville? It was me, you, Bradley Pierce, Dennis. We were at that Morton Steakhouse, and you had your buddy with you. I can't remember his name. I know him. You know the little guy. Anyways, he was like, I think maybe one of your pastors or something. I lost his name. Anyways, you were telling the story at the red. Do you remember a story you were telling?
No.
Shoot. I can't think how it goes. Never mind. I was hoping you'd remember because it's my favorite story, but I can't remember it all of a sudden. So.
Oh, that's all right.
It was a rescue. It was a rescue. Some miraculous rescue. There was a young lady involved. That's all I remember right off the top of my head. So, you probably got a gazillion of those, but.
Yeah.
Well, tell me your favorite rescue story. We'll end on that. Maybe God will sovereignly make it the same story I'm thinking of.
I mean, I think probably one of the best was I was about 20 feet from a car, and there was a guy and a girl in the car, and the window was cracked about 2 inches, and I thought, you know what, that's enough room for the gospel to get in. And so I started sharing the gospel like right through that 2-inch crack, and all of a sudden this dude gets out, and real intimidating dude. He could have just killed me, and he gets out and he stares at me, and I'm like, hey, I come in love. man, I just, I told him while I was there who I was. I try to be very transparent. I think that helps on the street. And he looks at me, gets back in the car. And so they leave the window down. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to quote Psalm 139. So I start reading Psalm 139 to him, talking about how the child is intricately woven in the womb and how the child is fearfully and wonderfully made. And all of a sudden the car starts shaking. And I think he's like getting ready to attack her or something. And so I tell everybody, hey, turn your cameras on. We might have to go in and rescue this girl. And all of a sudden the dude jumps out and he's looking at me again. I'm like, video, guys, because he's going to get me. And he's walking towards me. And I'm like, this is it. And so there's so much going through my mind. And he gets right up to me and he throws his arms out like this. And he snatches me and he grabs me and it starts hugging me and crying. And I'm like, what is
not what
going
I expected.
on? So I like put my arms around him and we're like crying together. I'm like, what?
Don't squeeze me too hard.
And he pulls back and the lady gets out and he said, man, we were going to abort this child. And he said, you started quoting some scripture and we had never felt the baby move. And he said, when you quoted the scripture, the baby started jumping in the womb.
Oh, my goodness.
And my girlfriend started crying. I started crying. That's why the car was shaking. And he's bawling. She gets out. And she comes and presents the gospel. There's like 10 of us. And she begins to preach. And I'm like, what is going on? And we just sat back in awe and wonder.
Wow. And
they left that day. And man, to me, still to this day, because I went from a moment where I thought, man, am I going to die here? What's going to happen? And all of a sudden we're holding each other. I mean, that's the street. It's like, you want to kill me, and then we're hugging,
Yeah.
And so to me, that's probably
that's
incredible.
Awesome. That's not the story I was thinking about, but it's when we were at the Creation Museum. We went to Morton's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that one
was it the
pretty
girl
remarkable.
that died that had the heart attack? But that wasn't a rescue story.
That wasn't that one.
That story's crazy too.
I can't remember now.
The box on my head when I had the diapers. Y'all make fun of that story.
Oh,
Maybe.
yeah. I remember that one.
Tell it.
Where the girl, there's a girl and a guy in the car, and they wouldn't look at me.
Right.
And I'm like praying, like, Lord, give me something. Like, how do I get their attention? I felt like the Holy Spirit tells me to go get a box of diapers out of my car. I had a box of diapers in my car. And so I go get it, and there's a picture of a little black baby on the box. And so I'm holding it, and the lady next to me is like, what are you doing? I was like, I feel like the Lord wanted me to get a box of diapers. And she's like, okay. And so
Never question Scott's madness.
Right. And I feel like the Lord says, put it on your head. And I'm like, put it on my head. Okay. So I put the box of diapers on my head, and the lady's like, what are you doing? I was like, I feel like the Lord told me to put the box of diapers on my head. And so I'm looking at this lady. And all of a sudden she looks up, and she looks at me, she stares, and she looks down, she looks up, she looks down, she looks up. And she can't stop staring at the box. And she starts bawling. And she gets out of the car, and she comes over, and they choose life.
Wow.
All from just a silly box of diapers on my head.
That's funny.
But that's not the story either.
The one either.
Golly.
I can't. I'm blanking, man. I just know I saw a bunch of grown men.
Some great
grown
ones
men weep that day when they told that story over some Morton steak. So.
Oh, I think I remember that too.
Were you there?
Was it at Morton's?
Yeah, when we were at the Creation Museum.
I wasn't there. I didn't go to that.
Okay.
Yeah. I do remember being at, I think it was Sonny's
Yeah.
diner. Yeah. And he was telling a story there too. Or no, that was Barrows. Sorry.
Oh.
And someone was just bawling at the table. I'm like, my goodness.
It'll come to me, I'm sure, once we leave. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm the idiot that brought it up and can't remember what story it was. So.
Yeah, but it's your favorite.
It's a good one. I know that.
Thanks for letting me tell some stories.
Well, thanks for telling some stories. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
Oh, and I remembered the awkward, I have these moments. When I flew to D.C. last week, guess who I sat next to?
Chick-fil-A? I don't know.
Senator Ron Paul.
No.
Paul. Yes.
Ron or Rand?
Rand Paul.
Like sitting right next to him?
Yes.
Like in the next seat?
Yeah. Him and his wife. Well, it was him, his wife, and me.
See, how does this stuff happen, man? It just providentially plays.
I bet you had an awesome conversation.
Yeah, they're a little shut down.
Yeah.
So he was being,
like,
I think Trump was
dude.
keeping him out of stuff because he won't vote for the big, beautiful bill or something.
Okay.
So, and he's been attacked several times.
Yeah.
So he's a little cautious. So
Yeah.
I tried to honor his
privacy.
but when he sat down, I was like,
That's funny.
What are the odds?
They're like,
Man,
who is this
that's
crazy
wild.
dude? Awesome, man. Well, hey, we're gonna stick around here for after show for everyone that subscribes to Apologia All Access. So thank you for hanging out today. Just quickly, I want to. Well, before I go there, where can people go to find you and help support the work you're doing?
Yep, ScottHord.com. It's SCOTTHORD. If you're on the streets and you're rescuing and you want me to come out, I'd love to come out. Just hang with you. That's what I love to do. Is my ministry is about encouragement more than anything. Just encourage the people that are doing it, and I want more people out there. We need more men active in this ministry. We need more women. There's 400 and something Planned Parenthoods across the nation. We need all of them covered.
Yeah.
We just launched a full-time missionary, Brandon, up in Carbondale. He's full-time now. He's got 5 rescues in the last several weeks. Rescued twins last week.
Wow.
So I want to see that happen all over the country.
Yeah, so you can go to ScottHord.com, check it out, and support him. I mean, Scott was pastor of church and was able to start doing this full-time because the need was so great, and he was getting so many requests and everything. I tell people all the time, like, they just ask me, like, hey, what should we do? I'm like, call Scott.
Oh, thank you.
Get Scott out here. He'll straighten you out. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, you can go there. Anyways, so I just want to mention our sponsors, of course. We're glad to be partnering with Amtech Blades. You can go to amtechblades.com and put Apology in the coupon code. Get the man in your life a nice blade to carry in his pocket, or a battle axe if you want. Put Apology coupon code 5% off, and he matches 5% to end abortion now and help save babies as well. So I'll have to show you my battle axe after we're done. It's very sharp.
Yeah, I've been staring at those things. They look awesome.
Yeah. So Bill Rapier, he was 20-year, I believe, Navy SEAL, DevGru operator, legendary Navy SEAL, good friend of mine, and he makes those blades now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Is it one of those things you throw, or you just kind of...
That's you can do a lot with that axe.
Yeah.
He's got some videos where I'm like, if I tried to do that, I would lose a hand very quickly. I mean, I picked it up out of the sheath for the very first time and bumped my thumb on the tip of it, and my thumb started bleeding all over the place.
Oh, they look amazing.
Yeah. And of course, you can go to shop.apologiastudios.com. You talk about saving babies. We got the End Abortion Now tracks in English and Spanish, which you're going to go away with several of them if you'd like.
Please.
And we got the coffee, we got the swag, and of course, we're just talking about saving babies today and people related to that. Why don't you tell us about Heritage Defense, Zachary Conover?
Heritage Defense is a legal advocacy group headed up by our good friend Bradley Pierce. Especially if you're a homeschooling family, it's a service that's available to you where you basically have a attorney on standby that you can call in case any 3-letter agencies show up at your doorstep and protect you. So get some protection for your family and for your children especially. You can just plug their number into your contacts, and if anything happens, you can kindly inform the people at your doorstep that you'd like to get your attorney on the phone so that they can mediate whatever's going on as well. So heritagedefense.org.
Yep, put Apology in the coupon code, your first month free. Of course, that's Bradley Pierce, who is on call 50% of the time. So,
good man.
And your son just recently graduated, right? So
No, he's been out a few years.
It's been a few years now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know why I asked that, but I was going somewhere with it. Lastly, we've been talking about the future of Christendom. Very excited for the conference they have coming up October 9th through 11th in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Again, Pastor Jeff will be the main speaker there, talking about false religions this year. And you can go to futureofchristendom.org, put Apology in the coupon code, get 10% off your registration. That's pretty awesome. So if you're there locally, or you want to feel like traveling to Pennsylvania Dutch country, which I've heard is really nice. Never been there, but I've heard it's very nice there. Have you ever been out that way?
Yeah.
They got mills out there, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've done some training out there. It was real interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good people.
Yeah. So, anyways, we love those guys over there, and you can support them as well. So, with that, anything? Well, this was pretty much the last thing for EAN.
Right. In Ohio and what's going on
for
there.
now.
Yeah.
For a little while.
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about this bill too is, I mean, it's kind of, those guys have just been quietly working in the background.
Yeah.
And then it happened all of a sudden. You know, their legislature there is a little bit different. So, I mean, we're almost at the end of June.
Yeah, I thought we were
putting this bill.
I thought they were already done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, do we know the status of that? I haven't actually heard.
I don't know the status of it. No.
I was just curious. We had some good stuff going on in North Dakota, so hopefully we've been doing work up there, and it should be a good legislative session next year. So, anyways, like I said, we'll be sticking around here for all the all accessors out there. You can hear some more stories from Scott. We thank you, everyone, for your support, and we will be back next week.
Yes.
Zach?
Thanks for stopping by, everyone. It's been real.
Scotty, don't.
Thanks for having me. It's always a joy and a pleasure.
Love you, bro.
Yeah, love you guys.
Peace out, everyone.